Welcome, everyone. If you're a focused learner looking to literally cut right through the noise and get straight into the nuts and bolts of how predictive markets actually operate behind the scenes, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, in this explainer, we're setting the stage to uncover a real mathematical edge, one that's hidden deep within predictive sports markets. We're going to look way past those surface-level numbers that everyone else is staring at. Instead, we're going to learn how to actually read the underlying data. We're decoding a very specific mathematical indicator that platforms use internally, and by the time we wrap up here, you'll understand exactly how to spot a highly explosive soccer match just by glancing at a single number. Sounds pretty good, right?
All right, part one, the secret match thermometer. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. You're looking at a massive board of weekend matches. I mean, there are dozens, sometimes hundreds of games going on. It is incredibly easy to get completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of data, the wildly varying odds, and just all that constant market noise. So I really want you to ask yourself, can you spot an explosive match in just 5 seconds? Seriously, think about that for a second. Not 5 minutes of agonizing over head-to-head records, not half an hour of reading through injury reports, just 5 seconds. I know, it sounds almost impossible, right? Kind of like some sort of insider magic trick. But if you think of yourself as a detective trying to crack a case, you don't need to read every single page of a suspect's diary if you already have their fingerprints. You just need to know exactly where to look for that definitive clue. And that, my friends, is exactly what we are hunting for today.
And this brings us directly to a truly fascinating premise from our source material. The author flat out states, "I found the secret thermometer that tells you if a match will be explosive in only 5 seconds." I mean, I absolutely love that term, secret thermometer. Think about it. A thermometer doesn't tell you why a room is hot, it just gives you a precise, undeniable reading that heat is present. We are going to decode a hidden mathematical indicator that basically takes the temperature of a match before the referee even blows the starting whistle.
But before we actually reveal that thermometer, let's just make sure we're completely aligned on the exact market we're talking about here. We're looking specifically at BTTS. That stands for both teams to score. It's a predictive market where your success relies on a super simple premise. Both competing teams must score at least one goal during the match. It totally doesn't matter who wins. It doesn't matter if the final score is 1-1 or 5-4. You are simply predicting that neither team is going to get shut out. It's a market that thrives entirely on offensive action and explosive gameplay. So no one gets left behind here. If you get that both teams need to find the back of the net, you already understand the core of the BTTS market. Moving right along to Section 2, the Trinity of Indexes.
So to actually find these high-action matches, we have to understand the architecture of the market itself. Because, predictive markets aren't just random numbers pulled out of thin air. They're deeply structured systems. The source material refers to the foundational elements here as the Trinity of Basic Indexes. Now, I want you to think of this trinity as the load-bearing pillars of the predictive market. They form the underlying structure, they calculate the raw baseline probabilities, and they completely shape the platform's overall risk exposure. Basically, they set the boundaries. But here's the kicker. To find our explosive matches, we aren't going to look at all three at once. Nope. We are going to focus intensely on one very specific piece of this market structure.
Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. The 2-2 score indicator. All right, within this whole market structure, the 2-2 exact score index acts as that ultimate market thermometer we've been talking about. Now, why the 2-2 exact score? Just think about the logic for a second. For a match to end in a 2-2 draw, there has to be a minimum of 4 goals scored, and they have to be distributed equally between both teams. That requires a highly offensive, back-and-forth, completely explosive environment. When the platform is calculating the likelihood of a 2-2 score, they are essentially measuring the raw potential for offensive chaos in that specific match. So if the probability of a 2-2 score is high, it means the platform heavily expects both teams to score. That makes it the absolute perfect proxy or thermometer for the broader BTTS market.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the profound difference between what you see and what the platform actually knows. On one side, we have public odds. This is the number you usually see flashing on your screen. And let's be real, it's heavily influenced by public sentiment, media hype, and just generally where the masses are putting their money. It contains a ton of market noise. But on the other side, we have the internal risk servers. Think of this as the wizard behind the curtain. These servers do not care about hype, they literally only care about raw mathematical probability and balancing the house's true risk. The 2-2 exact score index is incredibly closely tied to these internal risk calculations. By looking at it, you are completely bypassing the noisy public odds and peeking directly at the wizard's true calculations.
Which brings us to the main event, Section 4, Decoding the 13.0 Rule. Okay, it is finally time to reverse engineer the algorithm.
13.0. This is the magic number, guys. According to the source material, if you look at the index for the 2-2 exact score, and you see that it falls under this exact threshold of 13.0, boom, that is it. This brilliantly illustrates a mathematical green light leaking directly from the platform's risk servers. When the index drops below 13, the risk algorithms are internally screaming that an explosive, high-scoring match is mathematically highly probable. You are quite literally watching the platform's own defensive mechanisms light up, signaling that they fully expect both teams to score. How cool is that?
So the crucial point is how wonderfully simple and actionable this whole thing is. You can execute this in those exact 5 seconds we talked about at the very beginning. Step 1, you pull up a match and immediately bypass all the standard odds to locate the 2-2 exact score index. Step 2, you verify if that specific index is under 13.0. And step 3, if it's a green light, you capitalize on the explosive BTTS match, knowing for a fact you've decoded the system's own risk algorithms. It's structured, it's incredibly efficient, and it is just a hyper-focused way to find a real mathematical edge.
We've just used the platform's own data against it to find a mathematical advantage in the BTTS market. But it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the 2-2 index is the thermometer for both teams to score, what else are the risk servers hiding in plain sight? What other specific score lines or indexes are quietly leaking the true mathematical probabilities of the game? Keep your eyes open, stay focused, and start looking at the structure beneath the numbers. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.